think they're kind of just missing that next step.
Let's see if they find any footing here against CLG, who are coming off of that tough loss. It was something where the tone seemed to be set once Fudge went for that level 1 invade onto Contracts to really set him back against Blabber. Fudge sacrificing his own presence in lane to do so. And maybe today, as long as CLG avoids moments like that, they can get a better footing under them.
Well, I mean, C9 had such a good early game plan in that game, right? Because it was the level 1 invade with the Fiora that puts Contracts down, forces his flash. Now he's starting about a minute late leafless on his top side. And meanwhile, their bot lane is already getting dove, right? So I just think that was such a high level of execution from C9. I don't think we're going to be able to see that same level from Immortals. So they are going to have more opportunities here. It is Lucian Nami for Fleshy and Tactical. You know, when you think back to how TSM was able to get some wins last year with Tactical, and it was kind of all eggs in the Tactical basket at times, you know, putting all their resources into him, trying to find wins there. So he has had moments in his career where, you know, all the resources have been given to him and he's been able to deliver. But it is going to be tough. We've been seeing a ton of Lucian Nami versus Zeri Lulu, and I feel like the Zeri Lulu largely has been coming out on top. Prince, I think, was kind of the exception, who, you know, played an incredible game on the Lucian Nami. But I just think that it requires, you know, much higher execution than that of the Zeri Lulu, who can kind of just chill and scale. You don't really have to create big opportunities for yourself.
Mid-range evolution can create difficult situations if you don't know how to pilot him when faced off against the opposing comp. And CLG locking Maokai first is what allowed Immortals to bring the Lucian and the Nami, where a lot of times it's one's picked up over on blue side. You don't always get the lane together.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they're going towards that Maokai, still high prio on him. We have seen, you know, some nerfs on that way. Obviously, he's affected by the Demonic Embrace nerfs and whatnot. But Maokai still, you know, really strong on 13.1B. And Lucian Nami, you know, both received nerfs as well, geared towards pro, but still getting picked a lot. So a lot of these champions are still hanging around. Cassante obviously has been very, very effective. Immortals expecting them to just throw bans towards some of these tougher matchups up on top side. Fiora is a really obvious one, and then it's kind of Gwen or Jax, I think, most people have been looking towards as really tough answers for that Cassante. So likely to ban one of those away from Dhokla here as well. And on the other side, it's a mid lane ban here for Sylas. Potentially a flex. We have seen a little bit of Sylas jungle as well.
And I mean, when looking over towards that top side, you had mentioned the Jax specifically. And a lot of times with Cassante, I know Fudge has spoken about saying, oh, Jax can do fine, other picks can do fine, and Immortals seeming to believe that on their own accord, decide to ban him away.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jax and Fiora can both work well into it. It's kind of skill matchups, but, you know, if you can get a lead, you can definitely outscale and win in the side lanes, you know, if you're playing from ahead. But it's tougher to have success, I think, on those champions that is on Cassante, because Cassante doesn't necessarily have to win lane. You can just show up in 5v5 and be that frontliner for the squad, which can always be very, very effective. But I'm going to be interested to see, you know, what Dhokla brings out, if he can really have a strong performance into this. Gnar is another thing that a lot of people have been liking as an answer, but Gnar, Gwen, both wouldn't surprise me. Some people have been moving towards GP, but we saw Solo have a really tough game in that matchup earlier today, so I'm not necessarily expecting that one. Well, this would be exciting.
Ooh, seeing the Kindred come through.
Oh,
so
let's go!
Kenvi getting one of the picks that people have been hyping up since he came into the LCS.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was kind of known for this in amateur, right? He had a lot of games on Kindred, a nearly 70% win rate. So that would all have been in the academy for the most part. I'm not sure if he actually ever played any games in LCS on the Kindred, but it has been getting banned against Pioshik nonstop. No one else has really been picking it or getting it banned against them, at least in the LCS, but we're going to get to see Kenvi bringing this out. Kenvi was an extremely hyped prospect, you know, coming up into the LCS because of his time with 100 Thieves. You know, really looked good in that amateur and academy scene. And it is, in fact, going to be the Gwen as the answer into the Cassante, as well as the Irelia here as the answer in that mid lane. So very likely that's going to Palafox, but a blind Irelia against a Blaze Olive feels like pretty bold. And he's kind of just throwing down the gauntlet and saying, you don't have anything to punish me.
It does feel like something very in line with what Palafox would do, though. We've noted him for being on these melees in the mid lane and then really wanting to step up. He seems pretty amped up about the fact that others doubted them as the Together team coming into this year. Has so much familiarity playing against the Blaze Olive as well on multiple levels of professional play and looking to execute here. But I'm so curious as how these come through on the Rift. What do you make of these total comps?
All right, so it's just going to be the Azir. Azir is actually a really nice pairing with the Kindred, it's one of those things, I play a lot of Kindred, it's probably my most played champion, and when you're playing with champions that have displacement, it makes the ultimate that much stronger because you can throw down the Kindred ult, then sweep everyone out of it with that Azir ulti and be able to finish people off outside of that. So that is very strong. There is some really good scaling, I think, on the Immortals side, but to me, it's going to be a...
We get into the game on the Rift because it feels like when Kenvi first came through last summer and they were getting some of those bans of some of his signature picks and went immediately into the state of let's experiment, let's pull him into a lot of the standard comps, let's try and flex the muscles and see the different ways he can play towards the team. And some have been wondering what happens if he just gets to unleash on one of his picks the way that he did down in Academy, the way that he did to garner the hype that he had alongside Tenacity in the early portions of his career.
Yeah, absolutely, and I did double check, so he didn't actually have any of his Kindred games played in the LCS. This would be his first Kindred game in the LCS, and as you're saying, he does have that opportunity to try to have a pop-off game, and that's kind of what they're looking for. So maybe it's a little bit of Kenvi Unleashed, put him back on kind of how he made a name for himself, on these carry picks and see what he can get done, because this is a team that needs someone to emerge as their star, as their carry threat, because they have been struggling in these early weeks of the split.
And we will have to see how that coordination comes through for Immortals to set him up in that best light as much as possible. You called out how you can work the Kindred ultimate with the Lamp's Respite as well as the Emperor's Divide. And that's the kind of moment that can look beautiful or it can look awful if executed in a different way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you mess up any of those combos, it can be somewhat difficult. That one's not too bad to do. If the Kindred ult comes down late, obviously that's going to be tough. Sometimes you want to use that Azir ult defensively as well. And if you're scooping someone in, then Kindred ults them and saves them, that's going to be rough. But I definitely think that they should have the communication down. You just almost always, with this type of a comp, if you're playing Kindred with Janna or Gragas or Zeri, you almost always, want to try to get that ult down early on the Kindred. Seeing some aggressive trading. Tackle's getting pounded by Poome.
Yeah, that was a nice blast of damage, so just enough to be able to be in range of some of these autos here. And that is one of the things that we're seeing in this matchup that we've seen time and time again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Lulu has really heavy level 1 power, but the concern here is that it's a Doran Blade start for Zeri. So Zeri only has the 1 potion. It's already been used. And yes, they got the cleanse off Tactical, but heal is still available for Fleshy, and Nami can actually sustain you back up. So if Zeri can't push this in, it could be tough. If Palafox fully passive stack, he's looking for a Blaze.
What he's wanted to do when he took this matchup, gets so much damage onto a Blaze Olive to force him to pop some of that sustain. But Palafox is looking to harass and aggress.
Yeah, Palafox, when you're playing these melee versus ranged matchups, you've got to play aggressive. If you only sit back and farm, you're just going to be poked off the wave time and time again. Then you're low. If you don't have all-in threat, you basically have nothing in these matchups. And now Contracts, he's pulled into the tower!
Showing in the bot line, goes in for the root and has to back up. Luger taking so much damage under the cover of these bushes he can survive. But that was a lot of Summoner's Blown, both on Fleshy.
That's a good flash on Luger if he's not careful. If he gets a Q through the wave, he could just die. They're trying to reset this so heavily. Will they hold the wave? They should hold this wave 100%. Yes, they're going to take a lot of damage, but then Fleshy can reset. And you can just hold this wave until the next one comes in here and then try to thin it out a bit. Poome and Luger are going to stay around as a result. But this means that this whole wave could be denied here. Tactical's got to be careful, though, of the brush because he doesn't actually know wherever it is. So Poome is going to stay around. Luger's going to stay around. If Tactical finishes his base, they will crash this wave, and this will end up actually not too bad for them. And so that will be the result here. Smart play from CLG, faking the base here, staying around. They're going to be able to crash it.
Kenvi going for his first play of the game here on Dhokla on the opposite side of the lane. Revenge in pursuit. The guys is good for Dhokla to circle around.
Yeah, Dhokla able to create that space. He actually couldn't get the E on that Kindred down on him. He needed that slow, and now Revenge is kind of in this losing 1v1. Kenvi can hang around. He may just want to try to help him push out the wave and just get this reset because Revenge is quite a bit down on health. He's down on mana as well. But it's Kenvi who's actually just going to take a quick base and maybe go down towards that bot side for Scuttle.
So Dhokla on the, nice flash. Grabbed from a Blaze Olive here in the mid lane. Palafox was basically keeping up with the exact strategy he had laid out. Needed to be aggressive, needed to harass in this melee versus ranged matchup. And doing just that while keeping somewhat even in the farm. There's some more presence over here on the top side. Dhokla getting flashed upon, getting dashed upon, and a little bit of a sliver. Do they go for it? Revenge can't quite get in reach, but they have the wave here.
Yeah, they even committed the flash there from Kemby. Kemby just flashing inside the shroud to try to finish off Dhokla, but Dhokla able to create enough space. They don't have the damage to actually kill him off there, which is huge, because this means Kindred might actually lose his bot side mark, which did spawn on the Scuttle. We'll see if Contracts can get over there, because it was just that one Scuttle spawn. When there's only one Scuttle alive, it's going to guarantee the mark does spawn on that here. So he is heading out, but they spot it, and Nami's moving up. Contracts elected to clear out his Raptors first. Maybe didn't know if the Scuttle was actually still even alive. So if Kemby can grab this would be great. You know, grabbing that first mark off of a Scuttle is always going to feel really, really nice. He already had one, so he actually is going to get double marks off of purely Scuttles, because I think he got that first one off that top side Scuttle, and then leaves the bot side Scuttle alive because Contracts was spending so much time trying to gank around bot. It just respawns that second's mark, and it's 2 quick marks here for Kemby, so that's an incredible start, honestly, for the Kindred.
I can't wait to track how Kenvi performs in the rest of this game, because seeing him not just on the Kindred, but while there weren't complete perfection moments in those, right? Going for the dive or going for the kill up top and then not quite getting it in completion. You're still seeing that strategy of the early Kenvi going and playing towards tenacity. I'm going to keep referring to that because that's what a lot of people actually think of when they think about Kenvi at his peak. That really got people excited about him.
Playing 100 Thieves.
Yep, playing on through, and then now in the LCS, it feels like they're starting to give a bit more of an opening for him to be extremely expressive in the role, but can't get too excited just yet. See how the rest of the game ensues. Down here in the bot line, slight CS lead for CLG.
Yep, gonna be having that small advantage. You know, they have been playing really well in 2v2, but Kemby is here, so they're gonna be pushed back.
Yeah, for a moment, Technical didn't have that much man, but he's got a friend on the side. Poome has to flash away, but there's some range against him. Gets the slow in response and throws out the Q. Luger wants to follow up, but just go ahead for some of this wave clear, because all the while, Contracts ready for the collapse. Tactical attempting to escape, but a good bash in response. Fleshy doesn't quite hit with the Aqua Prison, and a Blaze Olive is on the way down, and because it doesn't connect, he doesn't continue his pursuit and knows that Palafox is on his tail.
Yeah, great cleanse there from Tactical. You know, overall, I think CLG has been doing a really good job, you know, in this 2v2. They did get a lot of help from Contracts, which I think Immortals handled very, very well. But because of that play with the fake base, they created so much of an advantage. Now Palafox, he missed on the E just barely. If he lands that stun, I think he goes for the all-in, potentially. But because he did not, he didn't want to commit the ulti. But that small play where CLG just faked their base and then got the crash, that's really what created the CS advantage completely. And now, you know, Tactical has been chunked out here. Contracts is going to be able to invade, take away that blue buff, which is really nice for him. And Kemby's got to be careful.
Oh, flashing forward. Contracts wants it. Contracts looking for Kenvi again. Needs a little bit of Palafox action for the help, but all the while on the bot side, Poome falls to his death.
Yeah, Poome goes down. We missed that as they were chasing off of after Kemby. I feel like Palafox could have just flashed the wall and killed him almost 100%. You know, maybe didn't have the actual timer on his flash, but you know, Kemby, his last dance of arrows, that Q was on cooldown, and now Tactical getting really aggressive, trying to push Luger away because he knows Palafox is behind him, so if the wave crashes, he's 100% dead. Fleshy is threatening to come back here, but they might both just die.
Oh, right on the outskirts, Luger. The battle of getting them so low in HP, and it eventually faltered, and you saw that, okay, Fleshy was around, but it's so difficult for him to step up with Palafox there.
Yeah, you really can't walk through that Irelia, you'll just die. So Blaze is trying...
Luger.
Threatening to come back here, but they might both just die.
All right.
So Blaze is trying to actually crash through mid. Should be able to make that happen and then back it up. Poome is on the roam. Try to answer. Nice sidestep from a Blaze. You know, back steps towards Palafox, actually dodge that stun, but pretty action-packed early couple of minutes here. You know, a lot of scrapping, a lot of skirmishing, despite the fact there's only those 2 kills. It's been so much action around bot lane.
I do enjoy the fact that nobody seems like they're kind of sitting back and putting their lo-fi music on and just making their way through the laning phase.
Lo-fi beats to farm to.
I feel like if you're playing a scaling comp, right, it makes sense to have lo-fi music early on, and you're just like, let me keep myself calm. Let me not.
You're playing early game then, some wub, you know.
Yeah, some dubstep,
high
some
BPM.
Like Armin van Buuren just like going in the ears. This is the secret to becoming a pro, y'all. Align your music with the comp that you're bringing through, but you can also try and align your shots over to the bad side, like all the shots of the calling, but nice dodge in the last moment. Luger managing to survive, but the ultimate utilized by Tactical, a great attempt.
Yeah, it's kind of that game of chicken. Luger knows he doesn't have his ulti. Tactical knows it too, so we can watch this one more time. Kemby just walked into that sapling that was pre-placed, and then Contractor's like, oh, he got hit by that empowered sapling. I can just straight up kill him. But he's cutting away here. The thing is, when you're inside this W zone, your Q cooldown is much lower. So this last Q that he used is now not reduced on cooldown. So that one is actually a long cooldown there. So I think 100%, if Palafox flashes the wall, he Rs him, he's dead. But, you know, didn't feel confident to do that. I think that's a missed kill. But at the end of the day, you know, it's neither here nor there because he didn't get it. And we'll see what they can actually make happen. Because Kemby, you know, has had a strong early game on the Kindred, you know, farming well, takes away a dragon, has those 2 early marks, hasn't been able to extend that any further. But if he can get to his 4 marks at a decent time, Kindred is a really strong team fighter and also benefits from the fact that these 80 changes did happen on 13.1b. You can go straight towards an IE second if you want to really kind of be aggressive with it. Quickblade's also pretty good.
And off of the back of those plays at 10-15, grabbing the first dragon of the game. So I feel like you see that comfort in the way that he's not just navigating these 1v1 scenarios and really clearly knowing his champion, but making sure to find these chances to not let CLG get too out of control. They've been getting a little bit up in CS over in the top side, and that bot lane with Zeri, Luger has been able to accrue a decent amount, and that's the threat that as this game progresses, you're going to be worrying about. But CLG are looking to set this up. Palafox and Contracts, they are seen on the ward, but will be able to make it through. The Maokai ultimate coming on down. The double root from all of the sides. The tidal wave in response. Kenby is here, and Palafox will bear the brunt of that damage. Ablaze Olive tried to go for the swipe on him, but CLG, they managed to keep all of their lives intact. And the Rift Herald, not so much.
Yeah, Rift Herald goes down without a charge, and the weirdest part about that to me is not even that they bailed out, but it's that Contracts clearly knew that people were coming and they had to leave, and he left so early, and then Palafox just kept walking in, right? Like his jungler is already left, and that just kind of seems like they were not on the same page. I don't know what the comms were like there, but Contracts was like, yep, we're leaving, and Palafox was still going in for that potential dive, and now could be in some trouble here. Mid has no flash.
Yeah, they're going in on Palafox now. Kenby grabs it. CLG losing their mid laner. And it did feel like, you know, that's the follow-up off of that last engage we saw, where an ultimate says one thing, but then the movement says another, and then Immortals punish by collapsing upon the melee mid.
Well, and then that's the forced flash from that bot lane play where Palafox was going in, and the rest of his team is kind of pulling out. You know, I'd love to see the replay on that bottom lane dive, or the attempted dive, where they forced that flash from Palafox again, because to me, that's really what set up that mid lane kill. And it's another mark off Scuttle here from that Kindred, so that is really, really good. And when you're in these matchups where you can win the 1v1 as a Kindred against the enemy jungler, it's so much easier to actually just go and establish your dominance on the map, to fight for those marks. That's why a lot of the more tough matchups for Kindred are the ones where you just can't win that 1v1. Because if you can't win the 1v1, often the other jungler will just show up to every single mark on the map, and they'll just wait for you, get a jump on you, and push you off that, which can make it very, very difficult to get to your 4 marks unless you can just get them purely through team fighting or ganking, which is pretty rare.
And that difficulty felt not as much in this scenario as you're calling out. When you're a kill ahead, you've been able to make it through your jungle more safely because of that. And starting to become a formidable opponent here. Immortals grabbing. It's not quite at 1K yet, but for a while CLG were the ones with a little bit of gold lead in their favor, and now starting to see it slightly swing.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they are out to a decent lead, and they have that early dragon. So, you know, Mortals, I think, definitely the underdogs in this matchup here today, but looking really good. Revenge going to go in. He's going to get caught.
On Contracts, try and make the play. The root doesn't get the needle work on one, and the attempts to run it back, but Revenge takes damage on the second throw, but still can remain under this turret. They do manage to break through a plate.
Yeah, Revenge, you know, was able to get close enough back to the tower that I didn't really think that was going to happen. And then again, it seemed like there was a little bit of miscommunication or hesitation from CLG's side on, are we fully committing this? Are we not fully committing this? You know, are we going to go back? What are we doing? Because the Bramble Smash from Contracts actually knocked him back towards the turret instead of away, unfortunately. And that definitely makes it difficult. But Revenge going to be able to complete that Mythic, TP back, and just push in this wave. Dhokla likely close to completing his Riftmaker as well, and that's where things get a lot more difficult for these tanks in this matchup, where the sustain gets really high. So we can watch this one more time. And we see on the minimap, we know that Azir is coming, and that is known. And look at Contracts. Contracts is already left. Contracts is already out there, and in goes Palafox, right? So it's like, there's a lot of, I think, confusion on what was happening. Contracts ulted, and then they realize, oh, Azir is coming, and he just insta leaves. And Palafox spent another, I don't know, 4 or 5 seconds walking forward, looks for the ult, Then he's kind of caught out, has to flash. And because he had no flash, he immediately gets ganked mid and dies, right? And that does cost them quite a bit. So CLG definitely going to want that one back, but they are completing some key items here. Blade of the Rune King done in mid lane. Demonic Embrace just got finished in jungle. Riftmaker just got finished in top side. Shield Bow just got finished on bot side. So both teams now, mythics and first items really coming through for pretty much everyone.
Some of the gold beginning to accumulate for the majority of the members of Immortals, with Luger shooting above the rest, though, because of that farming focus he has been up to. And Immortals looking to get the second dragon here. CLG still spread across. It doesn't look like they want to contest this yet. It's not really till soul points that you start feeling some of that pressure. But Tactical wants to go in on it. Tidal Wave thrown out as well. So Immortals using a couple ultimates there on the extended pursuit, but they get the objective, and that's what counts.
Yeah, I mean, CLG really is not down much, but I don't know. They just look really out of sorts to me today. You know, they didn't want to contest there, or at least Contract's in. Contract's just farming his Krugs, but again, why is Palafox standing behind the pit if they're not going to contest? Why are you not just pushing out mid lane and denying a wave, looking for a little bit of chip damage on the tower or something, right? So it just feels like Contracts and Palafox, but also, you know, other members of CLG are clearly having different ideas about what the correct play is in the moment, and they're not really seeming to be able to get aligned on it. So a bit concerning watching this CLG game. It feels like their coordination was such a strong suit for them in week 1, and here in week 2, it's definitely not seeming up to par.
I think this is what makes CLG sometimes. Oh, they try to go for it. A Blaze Olive, using all he can to get on out. Enough distance before the Polymorph hits in. Dhokla slammed by Revenge, but they know the rest of the team is here. But yes, looking at CLG as they focus down on this Rift Herald, it's what makes them difficult to evaluate, because you see some moments where, oh, their coordination is so on point. Look at Dhokla basically pointing where they should be ulting, but never mind, let me pause on that thought. Palafox at the whim of Fleshy and Tactical on top of the Aqua Prison he goes, tries to get a bit more of that durability with the Defiance, but eventually falls, and this tower is ready for teetering.
Yeah, trying to look for that 1v2 play, almost got it, but Tactical has the flash available, flashes back, and Palafox gives up another death, and the tower goes down anyway. So, you know, maybe reaching a little bit farther, trying to make up for some of the previous mistakes. You can get in that mindset of, okay, I've got to get something back. I messed up earlier. I've got to make a play here, and that can put you in a precarious position where now Immortals, all of a sudden, it's a 2K lead. They're up 2 dragons to none here, and you know, that 4th mark will be coming in here pretty soon, likely for Kenvi if he doesn't already have it. So things gonna be getting, I think, kind of tough.
First turret in favor of Immortals as well over on that bot side, which is tricky when you see that CLG are really hoping that Luger will be in a position to carry late in the game.
Yeah, we can see this one more time. You know, he is full health, he goes in, he does land that initial stun, and then the ulti there, nice flash from Tactical. You know, ulting backwards there is, I don't think that's like inherently wrong or anything from Palafox, but I think if you ult out towards the right, it's a small thing, but then the only way he can really flash is almost like back towards your turret, which would be kind of, I think, advantageous. So potentially, if he angled the ult differently, maybe could have taken down Tactical, but tries to go for the big play, not able to make it happen there. Immortals bot lane had the summoners, and gonna be able to get that kill.
But I do want to continuously see that attempt, always going for the big play, and we're at that point where you don't want to be preserved too early, and seeing how close it was hopefully gives Palafox a bit more hubris when he tries to go later on. But Immortals, the thing is, with the pressure that they have been able to allot themselves, they can rotate out this bot lane. Tactical and Fleshy now bringing some of that power towards mid to push up the wave, and the team can start joining together once more.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting as well, you know, to speak about the Lucian. It's very atypical now on this patch to actually see this build. This feels like an old build that we used to see more, where it's Gale Force, Rapid Fire, you know, they get this rated Dirk for the early power spike going towards that. But this means it's going to be a very delayed Navori or IE, right? We've been seeing almost exclusively Navori quick plates as that second item. So the earliest it can be is like 3.5. Contracts, though, maybe going to get caught.
Sweep on the Contracts, but he returns a favor onto a Blaze Olive. They set their sights on Poome, who is the first to fall, had to use the Wild Growth on himself. And Dhokla teleporting in, but it's a loss of the support, and Revenge pushing over on the top side to punish that teleport.
Yeah, going to be able to push in there, get quite a bit done. You know, Kenvi is doing a lot of damage at this point. You know, has the early mythic complete. Looked like he was going towards potentially a Black Cleaver here second. But generally, this build from Lucian was like super kind of early game, trying to power spike really heavily, goes straight to Dirk, Rapid Fire second, go into Collector third. I don't expect him to do that, but if he does, it means his quick blades are going to be so late. So maybe he's going to go IE instead or something. I'm not sure. It's just kind of like not the new build that we've been seeing.
Here we'll definitely have to track that and see the direction that Tactical decides to go with his build. And so far, it's accumulated 3 kills for himself in a lot of these team skirmishes. And CLG, having acquired the second Rift Herald, can drop that down here in mid. They couldn't get the charge on the first, so this will already be more value for them to break down a little bit of that gold lead that Immortals have brought, but unfortunately cannot finish with the charge.
Yeah, I just need one more auto on it, so they should be able to pick that up later. CLG really want to get this dragon. They don't want to allow Immortals to just get 3 straight, but Immortals don't seem like they really care about the dragon. They're just going to try to push out towards mid, get the pressure there, and they're actually pinging over towards Baron. They do have crazy Baron damage. With double AD plus Azir, there is that threat of just starting it up. But, they do have the blue orb on it, and Immortals maybe going to look for some sort of a pick here. Hard to do, though, when you're playing against Zeri and Maokai, honestly, because it's so easy to just constantly throw saplings in the brush, and the Empowered Laser can also reveal you in that brush as well.
The temporary affording of sight for CLG is enough for Immortals to not be able to commit to a play that they seemed ready to do as they awaited in that brush. Revenge spent a lot of time pushing that wave over on the top side, and then does have the teleport available, so he can continue those efforts on the opposite side of the map now.
Yeah, and Revenge, hasn't really had to join with the team. It's just been a complete island for Dhokla and Revenge, just kind of chilling, farming back and forth. We saw a little bit of pressure on either side. The early gank from Kenby, not able to get a kill on Contracts, then on Dhokla, and then Contracts comes up there. They couldn't get the kill onto Revenge either. We'll see when these two players want to start actually grouping. Nice trade here from Revenge, though, as lands the full combo, gets the pullback, hits the W stun. If he lands this, he might go all out. Yeah, he's gonna go.
Oh, he's going for it, and the damage is higher than it was before, so Dhokla dies. Poome, you're here, but can't do much. Revenge committing there with the ultimate, making sure that he secured that kill. Now CLG in the vicinity of their jungle.
Yeah, I mean, you can't just ultimate full health on the Cassante, but he landed like the full combo multiple times in a row there. He hit the Q3, gets the W stun, follow-up Qs, lands another Q3 there, and then, of course, you're going to go all out. You're going to actually look for the finish because you get the reset on your W. You have all that bonus damage as well. And Dhokla felt like just not really respecting that here, popping the ghost pretty late. This is after already having landed the Q3 and the W, lands the stun, into the all-out, just pulling him back there, and just doing this really, really nicely. Able to follow it up, dodge to the side with the E, hits him with the second W, lands the Qs as well. That's just perfectly done by Revenge. Big kill in the side lane. He's working towards that stone plate, and Gwen is picked much more, for this 1v1. Gwen can be a really strong team fighter, but again, I think it can be pretty difficult to team fight into what Immortals have drafted.
So when you think about just looking back at that last moment and what Gwen can do when you're facing off against Cassante, and he can get in the center of your Howled Mist and just really ignore a lot of what gives you that survivability in the moments.
Yeah, it's tough, right? I think in those situations, if Cassante is already getting that good of a trade, the answer is just you have to back off, right? Because you've already lost that trade so heavily. When he lands that full first combo already and has you down, chunked about 30% HP, you just can no longer take that fight. You got to sustain up off the minions, wait your turn, just farm it out under the wave, not play too risky. But instead, tried to get a little bit more feisty there, tried to continue fighting with Revenge, and Revenge just smacks him down.
Feeling himself a bit when he can come back down here to clear that additional wave. Still has a teleport at the ready, while the majority of CLG and IMT are over on this top side. Baron has been up for a while. Immortals holding a 4.5k gold lead for themselves. That's a lot of damage raining into Contracts, who has to flash away from the culling.
And it looks like Kenby just grabbed another mark there. I can't quite see exactly how many he has, but I think that was probably his 4th mark if he didn't already have it. Yeah, he has 4 as well. So they're just going to be right onto this Baron. Azir Kindred going to be killing this off incredibly quick. It is spotted now. Do they commit to the finish? This would be risky. I think they've got to leave. You've got to leave. They're already chunked down so low, but they're going to try to finish instead.
Oh, Poome Wild Growth upon him. Palafox in pursuit. Kenby in the back of the pit. Has to throw the Lamb's Respite. And even the Baron is in the center of it all. Palafox in the back of the pit. Kenby and Blaze all try to go for the retreat, but it's actually 2 down in favor of Immortals. One more slam onto Dhokla. Nice Aqua Prison onto Luger, and CLG have been pushed off. Immortals do lose Tactical, but they take down many.
Yeah, they get a couple kills, but they lost the Baron, and they kind of just gave a freebie over. I think that's like almost a game-losing play. Thankfully, they're still quite a bit ahead, and they did get a couple of kills, but there's just no reason to hard commit to it. You know, they have the Kindred ult, they have the sweep, so I guess they think that they can just make some sort of a play around this, but like, look at Kempi's health. He's at 40%. Why are you hard committing to this? You know, they are skirmishing on that other side, but it means you're gonna have no damage from your Azir or your Kindred on the enemy champion, so they try to commit to this. They drop the early Kindred. Wait, did he smite into his own Kindred ult? Kempi, what is happening?
No.
His smite was immune by his own ultimate. Oh no!
It's chaos! It's chaos!
That is like, oh man, that is so embarrassing. That is just so embarrassing. I don't even know what to say. I think everyone, if you're a Kindred enthusiast, thinks back to the Smithy play at MSI in like 2016. You go over the wall, you use the Kindred ult to immune the enemy jungler's smite, and then you smite it right after. He immuned his own smite, I think. I don't know if it was just for the heal and then to try to bail out, but like, that was not it.
Take out the word enemy in immuning the enemy smite, and he immune smite.
He
so
did.
He did half of the thing.
And maybe to, you know, give him the benefit of the doubt, maybe he just decided he wanted to use it for the heal, but then, I don't know, that whole play was so bungled. Like, they were in such a good position here. They are still 3K up, but there's no way they should have tried to finish that. And if they lose this game to CLG, they're going to be kicking themselves, because Zeri Lulu can win this game for sure. The solo laner's not really having a great time on the CLG side, but sometimes Zeri Lulu is all you need.
It felt like, so you saw them on there for a while burning it down, and there was that moment where you notice that CLG is ready to move in, and there's just too much hesitation on, do you want to abandon it? Do you want to go for it? And they say, okay, I'm in the pit, I guess we're going for this play now, and then a bit of that frazzled nature coming through a bit too much into...
And it's like, if they want to hard commit to it, then maybe, you know, Fleshy kind of just sacrifices his life and throws out his ultimate, and Tactical, instead of going for the chunk, is on the Baron with them, and they try to just really burst it down. But when you're trying to go for a two-man play, and it gets blue orbed out like that, you're almost never going to be able to finish it in time, unless it's like maybe super late game, and these years just like one-shotting the Baron. But definitely a risky play. They are still, though, in the driver's seat. They are on soul point. They are 3K up, so the sky is not falling just yet. We will see if they can actually, you know, secure this game. But they've got to play clean. They've got to be aware of some of these mistakes. You know, this is going to give me a little bit of a flashback to their first game that they were, you know, way up against TSM and ended up throwing that game. So they've got to show us that they can be clean in closing these out.
And for CLG, though, you're looking, you were able to deny that play. Baron buff expired. A Revenge still taking on Dhokla here on the bot side, who's throwing out the needlework, has Poome for some assistance if needed, but Revenge positioning in a way where he sees the majority of his team ushering through the jungle, know he has some safety for the retreat, and just trying to pressure right down on bot side.
But I think it's actually really good for Revenge, because even though, you know, Dhokla wins out on that trade, he spent his ultimate and Revenge didn't. So, you know, if they get some sort of a scrap, you know, after that, Revenge can reset, you can come back out. Dhokla's not going to have much of a chance in that 1v1 without his ultimate. So you're just applying the pressure, you get the ulti out, you back it up, Revenge will still push in this wave. You can look to reset likely after that to just heal right back up. As it is quick late's third for Tactical, so they're just going to be sitting on this rated Dirk for now. I'm not sure if he's going to go towards, you know, completing that lethality item next, or if it's going to be moving a different direction. But on the other side, Navori quick late's also done for Luger, so Zeri going to be at a really, really strong part of the game.
How are you feeling if you are CLG at this point in time? Because yes, you went out on that play, but you do still have somewhat of a deficit to make up.
Yeah.
You have a lot of your map has been broken open, and your vision you're trying to move up.
I mean, I think you're still kind of sweating a little bit, because your solo laners are not having great games, right? Palafox has not had the best game, and he's pretty far behind. Dhokla is also getting pushed in pretty heavily in what is supposed to be this kind of good answer into Cassante. It's all going to come down very likely to this next dragon, right? If we see the soul go over to Immortals, I think it's very, very difficult to actually come back as CLG. So they've got to focus on finding good teleport angles, getting some deep vision, so that their melee champions can be coming from different angles. If you're trying to run straight through the Azir soldiers and straight through the Nami tidal wave, straight through Cassante, it's not going to work. So you have to have Dhokla coming from a different angle than Palafox, Contracts throwing the ulti in at the same time, and kind of create that chaos that is going to buy time for Luger to run over the fight.
And that time is going to come in over a minute from now, so they still do have moments to be able to set things up. Contracts getting a bit chunked here. You do have to worry about what Tactical can do if he gets his sights on you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Contracts is playing full AP, right? We didn't actually talk about this yet, but Demonic Embrace start is pretty standard. But then a lot of people generally do go towards like Radiant Virtue or some sort of tank item. Radiant is by far the most common. He went Leandris, so he is just full squishy. He is going to do a ton of damage with the saplings, and that is an advantage playing around this dragon, is that it can be pretty annoying, but he's got to be careful because if he ever gets caught, you have no front line, right? Like, they basically just have another AP character here who's going to die almost instantly.
A full burn, baby burn build for Contracts. And, I mean, maybe when looking upon some of the squishies for Immortals and how to interact with the Kindred ultimate as well, see if you can blast somebody down on the outskirts of it. But Immortals right now are making their movement over towards that Baron side. I mean, this is an area that is absent of a lot of warding from both sides. Starting it up, though. They like to just position in these bushes, though, to try and bait out.
Yeah, and Revenge is just trying to tank the saplings. He's got to do that for the team because he is their main tank. But Kemi took a lot of damage there. Immortals can't just finish it in their face. He's going to go in.
Yeah, Tactical's going for it. Throws down the coal and gets about 50% of Luger's bar.
Oh, that's bad because now CLG has actually lost control of mid. You can see the Zeri tower is getting dropped down. Luger doesn't have anything to heal off of. He's got to try to get some lifesteal up. He looks like he's heading down towards bot wave to try to get that and lifesteal up, but Revenge isn't going to let him.
Oh, in the center of it all, and the Maokai ult coming through, but Maokai does fall. Tactical with the kill, and into the backline. Dhokla goes, getting lots of hits, but can't fall yet because Lamb's Respite is up. Fleshy ends up flashing out, so does Kenby. Palafox falls 2 for 1 thus far. And a Blaze Olive all the way over in the pit. It's a shutdown. Immortals out on top in this fight, feeling good.
Luger trying to go deep there and finish off all those low health bars, but they didn't have anything to burst them down really after the Kindred ultimate. Kenby gets a great Kindred ulti down, keeping him alive, and it's a good engage as well from Revenge on Contract, just punishing this AP Maokai. Maokai just playing a little bit too close here. The Ghost is popped. He can't get away. He gets stunned up by the W, ulted back into the team, and they just burst down Contracts. You can see Dhokla on the side. He's going to try to go in, but he just gets scooped out of his shroud here, and they're going to focus him down. Palafox now comes in. The ulti is dropped, but unfortunately for him, the Kindred ult is there to respond, and then you see Luger, he's waiting, and then he's going to try to ult right out of that to burst him down, but a Blaze Olive flashes over the wall. He's got great positioning over here in the pit. Fleshy and Kenby are able to get away on that top side of your screen over there. And as Luger goes forward, he's kind of just in this 1v3 by himself. A Blaze Olive, gate keeps Poome away, kills him as he tries to reconnect with his carry. And now that is Ocean Soul for Immortals, Baron as well. They've got everything, and this Cassante is just going to be a brick wall.
Immortals feeling good off of that one. Yeah, the way that you see that Maokai burn down, and it feels like when you don't have that tank to kind of buy that time, right? Just a bit more of the timing you need for the rest of the team to be able to rain down that damage was, yeah, I can throw out that ult originally, but then nothing to be able to follow up.
Yeah, it's really tough, right? And that's the thing. When you are playing this AP Maokai, you can't get caught, but they're just going to go in, and he's just going to be dead.
Again, the blast is so good. Immortals, they are going aggressive on this one. Luger is putting out the flash so he can circle around back into the base. Now at the side of his support once more. CLG have to focus on just getting out the canyons and the Baron push that's coming on through, sending Dhokla over towards that top side. It's bounties right now for CLG while Immortals take down the tier 2 bot.
I mean, it's going to be almost impossible, I think, at this point. The push is never going to end. That's the problem with Ocean Soul. You just hit a minion, you heal right back up. They have the wave in bot. They have the wave in mid. 2 inhibs, guaranteed to go down. We'll see if CLG can defend the Nexus here. Contracts is up in 10, but they can just continue moving forward. It can become that never-ending push if they want it to be. Kenby, though, is pinging over for a mark, so gonna go for a 7th mark. That would be the 2nd range upgrade of the game here. You can look for Revenge, but there's no shot you're killing him. Immortals happy with what they got here, want to take the reset, just continue to build upon their itemization, try to guarantee this win, because they are very, very close towards doing it.
making the controlled move, because look how that jungle is also lit up in the favor of Immortals. Whenever you get to this point when you've knocked down so many turrets and you get there first when you're aggressing alongside those Baron waves, it gives you such an opportunity to set up just in that way, which means CLG, not a lot of freedom in the way they can move. Gonna have to pair off before they make any foot forward.
Yeah, it's so tough when you're playing, especially these kind of compositions, right? You're playing this triple melee topside. You need to be out slow pushing. You need to be able to create pressure, come from different angles to actually expect. And when you're pinned into your base and you have no vision, as they are, all you can kind of really do is just run straight at them, which just doesn't work with this comp, right? And Contracts, when you're playing full AP Maokai, you need time to actually poke away with him with the saplings. But these last two fights, he's just getting engaged on and dying instantly. So, boom!
Oh. We'll just go back to the fountain for now, but Immortals got exactly what they wanted. You throw down that damage, and we can take another tier turret, throw up the Zero turret as well. And Immortals, in the way that they had backed off after getting those two inhibs, they clearly know the power that they have with these pushes, the lack of power for CLG without being able to set up that wraparound positioning, so they have no problem venturing on forward. Kind of that back and forth like they've got now. Dhokla tried to look for the angle, gets rooted back. There's a route over onto Revenge, soaking up the majority of it, and Contracts goes in before it, flashing out. The Nami wave as a result, and Vanguard's Edge also for Palafox trying to get the kill, but Kenvi goes down. 1-for-1 trade thus far. Blaze Olive duking it out with Luger over in the fountain side, but CLG, they only have their bot laners remaining. They only took down one in the process, and Tactical, even though he flashes forward for the kill, Luger manages to dish back a bit more damage. Can they keep the pressure off though? Immortals stunned up, get it done. Luger falls down. Poome, you are a Yordle, my friend, and people in this game like to kill Yordles. So they do just that, turn their sights back over on the turret. After a lot of doubt from those that witnessed the losses of Immortals, now finally
spamming the CLG logo.
Welcome to the LCS Fleshy.